Hot Lips Recording and Mango Drive Productions present The Reincarnation Office, an acoustic funambulist story by Jean-Yves Crozier. Acoustic Funambulist was savoring a moondiver cocktail, a colorful mixture of heavily fermented fruits with a dash of stardust spices, in Zornivius, the main city of the small planet Necton, in the Andromeda galaxy. The day was hot, and the terrace of the cafe was crowded with locals and visitors alike, all enjoying refreshments.
"Do you mind if I sit here? The place is full and I can't find an empty chair anywhere,"
asked the most curious character, pointing at the vacant seat facing the acrobat. His features resembled that of a toad, with big bulging eyes almost on the sides of his flat head, a tiny nose and an extremely wide mouth. He had long arms and legs emerging from a compact body, almost no neck and a rather sad expression. However, the most fascinating aspect was the fact that he was semi-transparent, a ghost-like appearance of the most unusual effect, like an ancient hologram.
"Yes, of course,"
responded the funambulist with a smile. He had never seen such a being before and was already itching to find out where he was from.
"It's a very hot day,"
he declared, going for the small talk.
"Doesn't bother me,"
said the other with indifference as he sat down and called the waiter over. He ordered a drink and sat motionless with a blank look on his face. The aerialist returned to sipping his drink, but his curiosity would not leave him alone, and since innocent chat was leading him nowhere, he decided on a less subtle approach.
"How come you are so transparent?"
he asked bluntly, still smiling.
"Oh, that's because I'm in between lives,"
groaned the spectral entity.
"You mean you're a ghost?"
exclaimed the astonished funambulist.
"Well, I guess so. There has been some mix-up with my file, so my rebirth has been delayed,"
explained the poltergeist toad in a fatalistic tone.
"So you wander around like this?"
said the acrobat, who noticed that his counterpart had not touched his drink and that his arm was actually going through the table.
"It must be annoying not being able to interact with anything material,"
he remarked.
"Well, it's a lot better than the wrong incarnation, believe me. I've spent the last life as a sort of toad experiment, which was obviously meant for a totally different being, and that was hell. Now I have to go to the Reincarnation Office to get it sorted out. It's the 4th time that I've gone there, and they're still getting it wrong,"
he added, banging his fist noiselessly as his hand passed straight through the furniture.
"The Reincarnation Office? That sounds fascinating,"
exclaimed the space performer, whose curiosity had no bounds.
"Do you mind if I accompany you?"
he asked, filled with excitement and spooky overtones.
"Be my guest,"
replied the other, wondering why on Necton would anyone want to visit this place. The acrobat paid for the drinks and they headed off to the Reincarnation Office, located at the end a small back street, its tall, blank features and spiraling elevator creating a sharp contrast with the rest of the neighborhood. Everything inside the building gave the impression of being on the astral plane. The fact that all walls and floors were painted white distorted every perspective, and the bright light flooding the place gave a sense of never-ending heights. The personnel were an assortment of ethereal beings of all shapes and origins wearing long, immaculate white robes. The place was crowded, a multitude who, like the toad, was semi-transparent and whose colors, the little they had, were absorbed by the intensity of the light and were displaying only a pale, hazy gray. The two walked up to the reception desk and stood in line waiting for their turn. Looking around, the aerialist noticed another queue to their left, where spectral creatures waited to enter a cubicle, and from which totally different beings came out, mostly looking like the regular inhabitants he had seen on Necton since his arrival. Pointing at the scene, he asked his companion for an explanation.
"That's the reincarnation booth. Just select your next life and get reborn instantly,"
said the ghostly toad, sounding like an advertisement.
"It's their new automated system, and it's what got me in this mess in the first place. Program error, apparently."
Welcome to the Reincarnation Office, affiliate T0945BX. Please state the purpose of your visit,"
said a young female attendant as their turn finally came up. She was wearing the standard long white robe, and her face was so transparent that it took the funambulist a hard second look to distinguish a smile.
Well, for starters, I'm not T0945BX. I don't know who T0945BX is, but he's probably out there enjoying my life. Although for someone who chose a toad experiment, the life of a stargazer might seem a bit dull,
answered the toad angrily, and the acrobat felt a sharp rise in the overall tempo.
But I see in your file that you volunteered for that toad experiment,
countered the assistant in an appeasing tonality that hanged in mid-groove.
It's not my file,
grunted the see-through amphibian.
What's a toad experiment?
Interjected the inquisitive funambulist.
Oh, just a new formula we're still working on. New species for the universe, that sort of stuff, you know,
clarified the employee.
More like an idiotic invention,
grumbled the toad bitterly.
Look, there has been a mistake. I am not T0945BX, did not volunteer for a toad experiment, and I have pointed out all this already the last 3 times I came here,
squawked the resentful toad, producing a high-pitched distortion.
I see. Well, let me check with my superior,
said the assistant, trying to be as pleasant as possible.
I'll make it a conference call so you can explain the situation yourself,
she added, as she closed her eyes and took an inspired pose. Instantly, the funambulist felt a slight shift in his vibrations, followed by an inner voice.
All our telepathic lines are currently busy. Please try again later,
stated blandly the inner voice.
Sorry about that. Maybe you could go directly to the descrambling section on the 8th floor. Surely they can help you there,
said the embarrassed attendant.
You can take the elevator,
she added with a smile, pointing directly behind them. They took the spiraling lift, which went around the outside of the building, getting a fully twisted 360-degree view of the surroundings, and emerged onto the 8th floor feeling quite dizzy and unsteady. The clerk from descrambling who attended them, wearing the regulation white robe, had finally, and after much argumentation from the toad, tracked down the error to a case of mistaken identity due to the same affiliation code being given to an entity from Cassilianis, a swamp world orbiting Alganib.
Well, there you are,
he declared triumphantly.
It's all fixed. I've deleted the duplicate and registered your Stargazer request. You'll soon receive a communication with your new affiliate number, and then you can simply use the booth downstairs for your immediate reincarnation.
That's what you told me last time, and the communication you sent me was an offer for another one of your darn toad lives,
replied the exasperated incarnate-in-waiting, whose trust in the celestial institution had seriously diminished.
This is the 4th time I come here, and the 4th time that I hear that the problem is fixed. I'm not buying it anymore. I want my new affiliation code now,
he shouted, his aura turning inside out.
This service is a disgrace, and I'll use Relife next time,
he threatened.
Don't you handle all the reincarnations in Andromeda?
Slipped in the funambulist in an attempt to bring back some consonance.
I thought you were an official agency,
he said.
Well, we are the official contractor for the South Andromedian Confederation and the only incarnation service to be fully covered by the social scheme,
responded the clerk, now in damage control mode.
What's the social scheme?
Asked the aerialist.
You pay in advance and they decide what's best for you,
scoffed the toad sourly.
I want my new affiliation code now,
he repeated, pummeling each word.
I'm afraid that we have a waiting list,
countered the attendant, looking for a way out and glancing at the clock.
I've been waiting long enough. I want to incarnate now,
shouted the other in reply, his aura now completely upside down.
Please keep calm,
said the descrambling section employee, eyeing the clock again.
There might be a way,
he said with a sudden smirk, hardly noticeable amidst the vaporous essence of his features.
I could give you an emergency code, which you could use now in the reincarnation booth,
he offered, being conciliatory. The toad nodded suspiciously.
A stargazer, was it?
Asked the clerk in a falsely concerned voice, which distinctly sounded off-key to the acrobat.
One moment while I tag you with the new code. There you are. It's done. You can now go through the booth downstairs and start enjoying your new Daydreamer's experience as a stargazer. With all our apologies for the mix-up, of course, and wishing you a pleasant new life,
he declared cheerfully.
This had better work,
grumbled the future stargazer, and he headed for the lift. Back on the ground floor they filed in line, again waiting for their turn. The translucent amphibian was still complaining and using all sorts of unfriendly adjectives to describe the services of the Reincarnation Office. At last his turn arrived, and with a less than hopeful sigh he slipped into the cubicle. The funambulist eagerly waited for the outcome and could not help but burst into laughter when he saw an enraged green frog leap out of the booth.
"I knew it! Useless bunch of idiots!"
yelled the frog as he bounced his way towards reception. Unfortunately, no one was left there, or anywhere for that matter, to attend to anything, and the wretched amphibian was confronted with a sign wishing him happy celebrations and informing him that the office would be closed during the holidays. He turned around, a look of disbelief and anger on his face, which was reinforced when he saw the acrobat still laughing, and he angrily hopped his way out of the building screaming all sorts of obscenities. Acoustic Funambulist laughed a good while longer, but it ultimately left him wondering about his own incarnation. After some reflection, though, he felt thankful for his condition, launched into an acrobatic waltz, took to the skies and departed Necton.